Awesome. Welcome to Over 50, starting over, everyone. I'm Barry Edwards. We're here, joined again with our resident AI expert, Mark Tennant. How are you this morning, buddy?
Hey, good. All good. Wonderful Friday here in Northeast Ohio. Maybe a little rain coming soon, but all good. Loving Friday.
What is the forecast? When are we supposed to get rain?
I think tonight and then all day tomorrow and Sunday. So at least we have a Friday.
I ask because, well, thank God you and I took advantage of the beautiful weather last night. We went to the feast, Little Italy feast downtown. My favorite Cleveland event of the year. And so we got that in yesterday. It goes through Sunday. It's one of our big feature events. And just to blow my own horn here for a minute, I created a website for it, which I did it about 6 years ago on a whim because I had such a hard time finding the dates for it every year. And I'm like, well, they really need a website. And it blew up. And here are the analytics for it. 21,000 hits in the last 2 weeks, 156 in the last 30 minutes. So it gets a lot of activity, and I hope to sell some ads on it or maybe have someone sponsor it. Somebody wants to give me $5,000 for it, I'll sell it to you. Maybe. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So that's if you type in anything like Feast Cleveland, that will come up. So really happy about that, proud of that one. And you and I had an interesting conversation. Oh, I have another share now I think about it. And let's see if I could find it. I don't know if the sound's I'm going to try to use the sound, but I tried earlier and it wasn't playing. Let me know. This is from last night, and you were ducking the camera. I was trying to get you. We were just having a really good conversation. This is the feast. That's me chasing you. Oh, but boy, look at the activity there. What a fun event that is. Yeah. And the food is so good. I don't recall. I went to Trattoria, as always, got my staples. Did you get something to eat? I don't remember.
I did. I got the stuffed eggplant with ricotta cheese and their marinara. It was heavenly. I had 3 of them, and it was very filling. It was
so
great.
good. That's one of the best things at the feast. It's called eggplant roulettes. How do you say it? Yeah, is that right? Roulettes. Yeah, so good. Yeah, and it's amazing that at the mass quantities that they have to do for the feast, that Trattoria does so well.
Crazy. It's
crazy.
I
think they're the best at it. Really good. But you and I were having a conversation. We did. In fact, I said, I wonder. My theory was because of the mass quantities of food that they have to make, that we were probably eating high fructose corn syrup, and you're like, no way, no way.
They've been doing, this is the 100 something Feast of the Assumption. It's definitely in the hundreds. And these folks have been doing this for many, 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 many years. And they probably start preparing in like late July.
For
and
sure.
Making sauce and making everything and starting to prepare. So I don't think we had any high fructose corn syrup or anything with the food last night over Trattoria. It was... I don't know. That's what I choose to think. But that's all those people know.
I believe you.
They know sauce. I mean, they know their craft, and
their sauce is so good.
For so long. And I refuse to believe they would steer clear to cut corners, because most of those places, or all those places down there, I just don't think they cut corners.
As you explained it, I believe you. I think you're right, because as you say, they've been doing this as a tradition, the same way, the same method for years, and they have it down. I mean, they really have it down.
That's right.
So yeah,
probably on the 3rd or 4th generation of children, who own and run these places. So
yeah, so fun. Now, another thing that we were talking about at that same time, which I didn't even have you expound on yet, I wanted to ask you on the podcast. We were talking about HIIT exercising, HIIT, high intensive interval training, and we bring it up here on this podcast from time to time. I just did it again this morning on the patio. Little humid out there this morning, but it's, if I get a chance to do it outside on the patio, I'm going to take it. It's so much more enjoyable. And to explain briefly how it originated, it came from a study from one of those big colleges like Harvard or Cambridge or something like that. I forget. I should have looked it up before this podcast. But they found that if you do 30 minutes super hard intense, as hard as you can, 30 seconds, I think I said minutes, 30 seconds as hard as you can of something like riding a stationary bike, and then rest for a minute or a minute and a half and do it again 3 times, then you got a total of about 7 minutes total of your exercise for the day. It draws the sugar out of your bloodstream. It can reverse a pre-diabetic, and it's just super good for you. And so there's been a lot of different ways to develop since then. What I do on the patio is I follow a video from the Body Project. That's the name of the channel. And it's 25 minutes, and you do 1 minute intervals of some kind of a calisthenic exercise, and then 30 seconds rest. And so you do this about 10 of these over 25 minutes. Now, you told me something, you were starting to tell me something altogether different for me, because I do resistance training normally throughout the week. I go to the gym, and that means lifting weights, but I don't do heavy. It's moderate, and I do something of a circuit training kind of a thing because I want to burn a lot of calories. You're telling me that you're doing HIIT exercises with resistance training. Can you tell me about that?
Well, I guess maybe it's a little bit of resistance training. So at work, I'm fortunate enough to work at a place where it's a very large building. It used to be a factory at one time. Now it's a training center, and I'm an e-learning developer. So the building is huge, and I get to walk through this building 2 or 3 times a day. I mean, a whole lap is about 1,800 steps. That's how, and you don't go through the same place twice. That's how big this building is. Well, I also pass by the gym, the little gym they have. So I do this 3 or 4 times a day, and when I go in there, I pick a machine. A lot of times it's kind of the push weights. And what I will do is I'll go hard for 30 seconds. I'll do 10 reps really quick. And when I'm done with that, then I'll go hard for 30 seconds, just maybe like this. And it is very heavyweight. So it doesn't take me long to get my heart going. And I'm up to about 20 seconds continually before I have to stop. And my heart's really going. But I do 3 sets of those. And on that machine, or I can do a really heavy weights on an ab machine, about 100 pounds, and do about 15 reps in about 15 seconds. I might be able to get 20 seconds in on that, but it really gets my heart going. I do that 3 times, and about do 3 or 4 times a day. And that's nice for me because I really don't have time to go to the gym, pack up the car, get everything to go into the gym. And this, I just found, really works for me. And I've noticed it, and I do lose weight. And I combine that, especially with my morning routine where I fast. So last time I ate was last night with you at the feast. So it's
you do intermittent fasting.
Yeah,
correct.
Yep. And I do that, and then I do some of the HIIT training in the morning. Then I have a decent lunch, and then I do some in the afternoon. And usually that is my day, and I usually get about 10 to 12,000 steps in a day, plus the HIIT training, plus the intermittent fasting, and it just kind of works for me.
Well, that's awesome. Now, when you're hitting the gym like that in those intervals, are you doing like only 5 minutes at a time?
Yeah, probably 5 to 7 minutes, I guess, because I'm in the middle of my lap, so it's just easy to go in there and do these. Yeah, so that's about it.
I wanted to stress that because everybody that can't find this time to exercise, there you go. 5-minute intervals, and it's so good for you. And again, you're drawing that sugar out of our bloodstream, which is so important. What do I want to?
Good.
Oh, well, you get out of it.
Yeah, I do 50 push-ups. And then when I go into the gym, I usually rip off 20 before I go on a machine. So my heart's already going before I start my HIIT training. So again, it just works for me. And if you don't have the time, your own body weight works just fine when you're trying to get in shape and just trying to keep in shape.
For sure. Now, I have had separated shoulders. I separated them at different times wrestling in high school. I have to watch these kinds of things. I cannot get out of bed and drop on the floor and do push-ups. My shoulders would not do it. Even what you're saying, like I was concerned for myself, thinking about your routine, about going in there and ripping off a bunch of bench presses or something. I would have to work up to that. So my warm up and stretch out and loosen up. And even still, I couldn't do very heavy weight at that point because of my shoulders. But whatever, we're all different. Us as individuals are all different. So do what you can. I like to do, as far as you're talking about ab routine, I like to do planks, which don't need anything. All you need is a floor. We all got that. And that's just propping yourself up on your elbows and for as long as you can. If you do a minute, it's really good. It strengthens your entire core, meaning your lower back as well as your abs. It's really wonderful for you.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say about intermittent fasting, I find that I can do that for about 5 months at a time, and then it stops working for me. And so then I have to go to where I'm at right now is smaller meals throughout the day. I try to do portion control, which is hard for me, but then that works. And
All
now
of us.
pretty soon I'm probably going to go back into doing an intermittent fasting again. But my body adjusts to what I'm doing, and that stops working. I have to change up the system again after that.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. We're all different for sure. And fortunately, it still works at my age. So we're going to keep doing it until my body says I can't do it anymore. But
I hear
hopefully
you.
that's a long way off.
I hear you. I hear you. All right. So there's a lot of different avenues about the subject matter we want to tackle today. I could say that I just a few minutes ago found we're going to be talking along the lines of AI and how it affects our lives and an introduction to it. We're going to go like really in introductory kind of stuff. Mark and I have been talking about this. Mark approached me a week or two ago and said, "Hey, how about if we do like really digestible 1-minute segments on and splice them into the show about how to just ramp up, get used to using AI and how you can do it." I thought it was a wonderful idea. I came up with just this morning this video, 1-minute video on how AI can mislead voters. And I think that's something that we should all be aware of. It's on the AARP website. So it's geared towards us. So we'll play that. It's in whatever order you want. But Mark, how about you tell us about how you want to approach your subject matter here today?
Well, what I want to do, so all of us over 50, and especially people in their mid 50s, they have to work for another 10, probably 15 years. And we all have to know this stuff. And I'm fortunate enough to work with folks that are about that age. And I noticed at work that when I speak with them about AI, they just really had no clue and really didn't know where to start. So I'm on this AI literacy crusade, if you will, and it's going to be as important as reading. I'm telling you, it will be. So I thought, what would be the best way to start getting folks that are listening and watching the podcast to start, and they just don't know where to start. So what we're going to do, we're going to be remarkable. We're going to learn together. We're going to set a course. And I believe the course is going to start out with, when I say course, I mean as in navigational course, a learning course. And what we're going to do is start out simple. And every week, we're going to do 1 minute to 2 minutes, and everything we're going to tell you about and share with you is going to be actionable, and you'll be able to take steps immediately and start implementing these things in your lives. And I thought, well, we all work, and maybe it's going to take a minute to kind of implement these things into your business and your daily routines. And we'll talk about that as the weeks go on. But how I would like to start, probably, and today, now is a great time to start, is to start looking at the different platforms. And I say, first of all, the one everybody's heard of is ChatGPT. There are a bunch out there. They're very, very friendly to learn. But let's just start there because most people have actually heard or maybe even have used ChatGPT. So that's what we're going to start with. And I use the paid version. Now, for me, $20, pardon?
Same. Yeah, I do too.
Oh,
yeah, that's what we're looking at right here. So with the paid version, you can actually have it make illustrations, which I've been trying to get it to do for a training manual I've been working on. And so you go ahead, Mark. I just wanted to show people what this looks like, the paid version. And this is a desktop version. I think we probably should talk a little bit more about the mobile version, but you go ahead.
And it's great because on the fly, you can use it to talk. And the best thing is, so people talk about prompting, and prompting essentially is telling the AI what you want it to do. Well, a lot of times people don't have time to sit down at a keyboard and start typing things out. And first of all, how do you start talking to these things? How do you get the best and the most out of these things? And I think for us, as we start off simple, is just start having conversations with the voice feature. And the advanced voice feature of ChatGPT that actually was just released within the last 2 or 3 weeks is sensational. And I'll give you an example. Last night, as I was preparing for the podcast and thinking, how are we going to start introducing AI into the lives of the folks who maybe have little to no knowledge about it? And one of the ways I was thinking about was, again, talking to it. You can have your phone open or a desktop open and with the voice on. And let's just say you're reading a book or you're learning how to do something. When you can't understand something, or maybe you want something summarized that you're about to read, you can talk to the AI and it will speak back at you in a human voice. And after a while, you think you're talking to a real human, but just remember, It is not a real human. It is a machine, but it's there for you. And there's nothing it doesn't know. You can take about any book that's ever been written. You could ask it about a chapter. Maybe you're starting to read. Can you summarize this? It will know the book. It will know the chapter, and it can be your companion when you're trying to maybe learn something, entertain yourself with a book, or maybe you always wanted to write. And this is the example I started last night. So I was in radio for a long time and just never quite made it, always at smaller stations, but it was fun. And of course, I'm a big rock and roll fan. So I was thinking about taking a real life situation. In this case, it was a band, the Rolling Stones, and interjecting a fictional character into it. And this fictional character, we came up with a name, the AI, ChatGPT and I did. His name is Artie Sinclair. And Artie is a farm kid, grew up in the country in the United Kingdom, moved to the city of Bristol, got a lucky break in radio. And this isn't about 1964. So what I did is I asked the AI, let's see some dates where the Rolling Stones were in 1964 in the United Kingdom. And sure enough, they were in Artie's hometown.
Oh my God.
And as a DJ, he was fortunate enough to get into the show. Now, remember 1964, they were really only known in the UK, and they hadn't made it in the spring of 64 over to the United States yet. And of course, the Ed Sullivan Show. So this is where Artie's big break, and if you will, when he starts meeting the Rolling Stones. But Artie has a superpower that he has no idea what he how he has it, but he can see into the future of the Rolling Stones' future. And it's based off of their real life facts that have happened. But Artie, when he first meets Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, Charlie Watson, Bill Wyman, they're very curious about, because he's a radio guy and they're talking that. And all of a sudden, Artie gets this feeling and he said, one of these days, and it won't be long, you're going to be one of the biggest bands in the world. And they looked at him and they smirked at him a little bit and said, how do you know this, Artie? So curious, but yet they were kind of like, who is this guy? And so the story goes on to where they start becoming friends with Artie. And Artie, all of a sudden, as they're going through their careers, the mid 60s, the late 60s, early 70s, whatever Artie says is going to happen, turns out happens. Uh-huh. But he has no idea why he knows all of this. So this is the story that the ChatGPT and I created. And we wrote 3 chapters last night, and it was till after midnight. And I could sit there, and when it writes, it reads back to you as it's writing. And then it's also giving it to you in text, so you can go back and look at the text. It is fantastic. You could actually have it make up a story, as I said, and it was so entertaining based off of an idea that I had.
Okay, and let's back up, though. I want to ask you, what kind of prompts did you use to lead it to create this?
I just had a conversation with it. I just said, hey, ChatGPT, I had an idea for a story. Can you help me? And it said, yeah, sure, Mark, let's talk about it. What do you want to talk about? Or what do you want to write about? What do you want to do? And I said, well, and I explained that I was a DJ and as everything that I just went over. And it says, oh my gosh, Mark, that is a fantastic idea. And then when I came up with the idea of already having these superpowers, not knowing how he has them and why he has them, but everything that he's saying is based off of truth that's come into the, between 1964 and now in the Rolling Stones career and personal lives. And he still doesn't know how it happens. And as I'm telling the AI this, it's saying, Mark, that is a super idea. It's super entertaining. We can do so much with this.
Yeah.
And then it asks me about a scenario. Do you think maybe this is where you want to start? And I said, well, let's start Artie, back as a country kid growing up in maybe a farm in the UK, and his mother maybe was an artist, and she always encouraged him to be curious. And it said, okay. And then it came up with some ideas. And I said, you sure? And then we bounced things back and forth. And I said, okay, let's start the first chapter. And they did. The AI did. And it wrote the first blog. I kind of said maybe a blog post, not necessarily a book, but it doesn't matter. It could be anything. And it started writing. And as it's writing, it's reading this to me as it's writing. And maybe what I can do is maybe for the show notes, we can post maybe a little bit of it and people can see my conversation. So as I say, to start simple, as we go down this road, just talk to the AI, start using it. You don't have to use it for business yet, although that's our goal, to be able to simplify tasks for you.
I use it every day.
And those types of things. But let's start out and really explore this together, and your creative side will come out the more you talk to this thing. I was thinking so fast I had to write things down that I wanted to tell the AI, but I didn't want to interrupt it because the stories and everything it was writing was so fascinating and so cool, and it was based off of an idea I had, and I just do not have that creative ability to write as well as it does. And it is, I mean, I swear it's almost book ready or blog post ready. It's amazing, Barry.
I can see where the story could go and probably should go. Jeez, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
Because you got to figure out, unfold, where does his superpower come from and all that. And then just how this whole thing's been created. He's got to come at the very end, the last act, the twist at the end. He's got to come to the realization that he's in the Matrix and that he is basically. I think about this all the time, Mark. Do you know that old video game, The Sims? And I never played it. But it was a video game where basically you take a family and then you try to make them more prosperous. I mean, it's like you're raising this family, and they're called The Sims. And it was like one of the earliest video games as we know today on a computer type of thing. I don't know if it's still out there. I suppose I could ask AI right now, but to me, the logical, what we're doing here, what you're doing with that story is you're creating an artificial intelligence of its own. You're creating this character. And what about when it becomes self-aware? Okay. And that's what I wonder if we are in, is if there's two theories that ring true, or at least spark my curiosity about simulation. And that is, one is the Matrix, where we are actually alive somewhere plugged in, and we choose to, I don't know if it's red pill or blue pill, but we're like, hey man, this artificial world's way better than reality. I'll stay there. Okay, let's just do that. The other theory is that we are like The Sims. We are literally, and if you really think about this, because when you think about afterlife or whatever, theories on that'll get you there. We start with some premises, like we know that we are all made up of energy. Like even ourselves, our bodies are not the same atoms that they were 7 years ago. These things bounce around and all that, but what holds us together? Well, you could say, we're a computer simulation. And and we are like The Sims that have gotten to a point where we've reached self-awareness, but we are still in this electronic thing. I play this billiard game. It's a simple billiard game. It's pool online. And the physics in it are indescribable. I mean, indescribably, they are just so realistic. Okay, the physics engine behind it. So that right there is amazing to me. And so why can you not apply that to real life? Do you know the Real World Engine? I think it's called Real World Engine. You could see, I could pull it up on YouTube right now, and you can fly around New York City like Superman, and everything is in super high res detail, right down to traffic lights changing and stuff.
I see.
I mean, so we're kind of there. And look, we started with Space Invaders and Pong when we were kids, and we're already here. So how do you not think that in another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that we can create that. So are we just self-aware electronic characters in that game? I mean, I forget where I was going with that. Well, okay, so I was talking about the end of your story could be like that your character becomes self-aware. It knows this future because it's happened in this other reality, and it's only a self-aware electronic version of this.
Oh, interesting. Well, I will say this because we were talking about, how Artie knew the different things. In one of the chapters, it mentions he's the song Jumpin' Jack Flash, but he doesn't actually call it that. He says there's going to be a song about jumping or something that's really going to put you on the map. And it was 2 years, as the story goes, before they actually wrote it for the Stones. And Artie knows this. But because it's all of this great stuff, we all know that people have ups and downs. And the Rolling Stones were no different, especially with Keith Richards and his known drug problems and his dark sides and things that had happened to him, and even maybe some of the other members. And so one of the chapters is where Artie says to Keith, takes him aside because they become buddies, and he says, I'm seeing something that's not going to be good in your future, and you need to steer clear of bad things that are possibly could come your way. Well, Keith kind of resents Artie telling him these types of things. And then they go through some kind of I don't want to say a fight, but maybe a splitting up or a differences of opinion. But Artie's only trying to help Keith. But Keith at the same time says, first of all, how do you know all of this stuff? You're not a god. You're just a DJ that maybe is right on a couple of things. So there's also that element thrown into it. We also talked about that, and she also wrote a chapter on that. And we haven't come out of that yet, but we got about 3 chapters or 3 posts written around this story. And it all started going back to the beginning. And what I was talking about initially is, let's just all teach the change. And when I say that, let's all immerse ourselves in this and, have it be a means to an end. So it betters your life, not takes over your life, because it could be so much fun, so entertaining, so helpful. And there's not an occupation, there's not a business, except maybe if you're a construction worker that works, on equipment, those types of things. But there's not a knowledge worker job or any other type of job like that where it cannot help you. And I think this is a great way to really start immersing ourselves into AI. Generative AI is what this is known as. And let's start off small and start entertaining ourselves. Recipes, if you enjoy cooking, you can set it up and say to the AI what you like, what kind of ingredients you like, and it would create a recipe for you. And I do this all the time, and the recipes are fantastic. Yeah. I had some peppers last year that came out of the garden that were in the freezer this winter that I wanted to clean out the freezer. And I said, hey, I've got these peppers, told it what kind it was. It asked me a series of questions because I wanted to make some hot sauce. It said, what kind of hot sauce do you like? Do you like it smoky? Do you like it hot? Do you like it rich? Do you like it fruity? And it asked me a bunch of questions. So and then based on what I had, it created this recipe it was fantastic. I brought some to work, and one of my coworkers took it home and brushed it on some pork chops on his grill. And he said it was the best pork chop he ever created on the grill. So like I say, let's start there. And next week we're going to, and if you wanted to start going to ChatGPT, you can just search for it. You can go, the free version is enough. You don't have to pay for it. But for me, the $20 a month, it's the best $20 a month I spend because it gives you so much more than the free version. Now, the trade-off here is with the free version, you're helping them train their model. So they're giving you access, but you're helping train their model. If you don't want to have them train your model, or you have some intellectual property kind of thing where you want to use AI to help with that, and so it doesn't go out there, with the paid version, you can turn off the ability for it to learn. So it won't be learning, and the model won't learn anything about it. It will just be focused on that particular chat or any chat, because you don't even have to do it for every chat you have. You just go in one time into the settings and turn off the ability for it to learn off of your inputs. So that is kind of the trade-off, and you get to do more. And with the paid version, you could also create images. And if you're a creative person and maybe like to paint or photography or those kinds of things, you cannot believe the pictures it makes. And it can be an inspiration. for creativity. And I think this is where we should start. And then starting next week, I'm going to start submitting some clips and maybe a minute and a half that at some point during the show, Barry will play and Merle's here or whoever's the host. And it's going to be some actionable things that you're going to be able to take away once a week so we can all start learning, so we can all start immersing ourselves, and so we can all eventually start not only incorporating it into our personal lives, but also our work lives to make things a lot better. And so we can keep our jobs and keep working for the next few years. But this stuff is coming fast, and it's coming quick. So the quicker we know and the quicker we're aware of these types of things, the more it'll help us and the more it'll help your career and your life as well.
That's awesome, and that's a really good foundation. I just want to add to that some practical stuff to wet your whistle. What I use it for on a daily basis, I've been working on this training manual for training electricians in electrical maintenance, and my client gave me a bunch of scans. I mean, some are just pages of text, but they're scanned.
Yeah.
I copy it and I paste it in the chat and I say, please transcribe this. And in 20 seconds, I have all that text. Copy that, paste it into my Word document. It's made my life so much easier. I've been using imagery as well. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, Lisa said, hey, she represents this company, and she's got to do some public speaking. She has to publish some articles, and so she wants that byline. Okay, so she wants a paragraph description of herself, and she gave me her resume electronically, which is about 3 pages of heavy, intense stuff. And she goes, "Can you give me this byline?" And dude, in 10 minutes, so I always have Premium Chat pulled up in one tab, and I have Claude pulled up in another because I really like Claude, and I have the free version of that. And I pasted her resume into both of those. And I said, please give me a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of this so that I can use it as a byline for articles that I write. And I gave her 3 versions. It took me 10 minutes. I emailed it to her. She's like, you did that already? I'm like, yeah. And so there's that. Now there's play. There's fun stuff. And I'm going to share this with you because you were talking about imagery. So these are pods of possible colonies on Mars that I told it to create. So I'm going to try to describe this. I know most people are listening. So I just had a whole lot of fun. I started off with, this is all I said, create a photo of a tank from the year 2250. And this tank is hovering above ground. It is so cool. Look at that illustration.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? And so then I said, make a picture of a soldier in an exoskeleton from the year 2250. Look at this, Mark.
Wow.
Okay. The detail of that is outstanding. Like, you can write a whole movie script around this photo, this illustration right here. It's absolutely astounding. So it's an exoskeleton. It looks like battle gear from the year 2250 for sure. Then I said, create a futuristic version of Vancouver set in 2250. And look at this, like these hovering parts of buildings and stuff. Where did it come up with that? I mean, if you ever want to, this is one time I highly recommend you go to YouTube and take a look at this stuff. And then I said, create a 3rd generation of a human Mars colony. 3rd generation. So there's all of these pods. It is absolutely breathtaking what is going on there.
That's right. Oh, wow.
And then do a close-up on a main pod. Look at inside of there, that tech going on in there.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, so this is just really fun stuff. Then over here, I tried a different one. Cowboys with UFOs in 1886. Remember the movie? Did you see the movie Cowboys and Aliens?
I did not.
It was so good. It was so good. What a fantastic juxtaposition to put the Wild West, aliens in the Wild West. So that's what we got here. And look how cool that is, complete with the, it looks like aged paper, like an old photograph.
Right. Yeah. Hmm.
And then I did another version right there. And that's the end of that. So really fun to just play around with. And yeah, you could create all kinds of stories around these things. All right, buddy. Where do you want to go with it? What I do hope is maybe next week, or maybe you create these 1 minute things that we insert into the show. And I think it'd be really cool if you showed us just how to download the
Yes.
app from a
Yeah.
smartphone, and if you could from an Android as well. Just
We do
that's
that.
where we get started. That'd be
Yep.
really fun.
And I invite folks to, if you're maybe a little bit savvy and you're used to doing these maybe types of things in your normal job, give it a shot for yourself. Now, there's web versions of all these things. You don't necessarily have to have the app. However, with a phone, there is an app that you would have to download to keep it. And you could even on your phone, you could go to the website, but the website doesn't look as good on the phone as an app looks on your phone. And
For
we'll
sure.
talk about that as well. But I mean, that's about as techy as we're going to get, because
I like it.
we're going to make this as easy as possible, because it is easy. They make these models so they're not hard to use. There are some caveats because it has such a good imagination, and because these models are trained to help as much as it can. If you ever ask it something, and it will always give you an answer. The answer will always seem remarkable, but they have
Yes.
these things called, what does this, hallucinates. It makes things up. If it doesn't know something, or it just doesn't maybe understand your context, it'll make something up. So every time it sounds good, it really does, the output, but it might not be what you want. And so I caution that, especially if you're going to use it in business, there's always got to be that human touch to it. You've always got to check your work, and you've always got to make sure it's what you want. And a lot of times, let's just say you maybe wanted to help you write an email about a series of emails, or some tasks, or a project you're working on at the office, or whatever it may be. Just make sure that you provide the right context, and when it does give you your output, you need to put the human touch on it. It'll get you about 80% of the way there,
Agreed.
but it needs your 20% and your touch on that. So just those are two caveats that I think when we use generative AI, and I think a lot of people maybe have heard the different stories about people just go ahead and copying, pasting something, and then it just being totally off the wall. It sounded good at the
Yes.
time, but this is where you need the human touch on some things. And this is where we're going to keep the human, us, in the loop as far as we use these tools. Again, it's a means to an end, but we're going to control that end.
Oh, that's very well said. Very important. I will say that Merle has told us that he uses it to create sales-oriented emails. And so, just as you just explained, he will just lay out the entire concept of what is going on, who this person is, what their role is with their company, and what he is trying to get across to them. And he'll come up with, he says, really successful emails. And so that's very handy. I will say that I create blog posts about things I don't know anything about, like electrical maintenance. And so I'll say, I'll ask it, what are the 5 most important things somebody learning electrical maintenance should know? It'll give me these 5 different subject matters, and I'll read them and I'll say, okay, let's pick this one. All right, now take that subject matter and explain it to me in 2,000 words or 1,500 words or whatever. So it does, but I don't just copy and paste that, to your point,
Right.
Mark. What I will do then is I'll read it over and I'll say, because now I want a good intro paragraph, and I'll say, give me a good summary paragraph that creates an interest, that drums up interest, that makes me want to read the details of this. And that I'll use both Claude and Chat, and I'll pick the best of both. And I say that because Claude is often better. I like the way it writes.
It does write very well. And then, by the way, for the folks that don't, Claude is essentially this. It's a ChatGPT competitor made by a company called Anthropic. Doesn't matter what their name is, but just know that interfaces are very much alike. The one thing Claude does not have, you can't. It doesn't create images yet, like ChatGPT does, the paid version. It does not. It's limited on the things you can upload. It does text really well, but I think what it does better than ChatGPT is actually write. It's very, very good at writing. And I think a little bit better than ChatGPT. But it's up to you, but just know that Claude is just a competitor. So when we say Claude, that is another AI platform like
I'm
ChatGPT.
glad that you clarified that. Another thing I should clarify, the stuff that I showed you a few minutes ago, creating the illustrations and talking about taking that scanned text and putting it in there and have it transcribed. Well, that's with the paid version. Okay, you got to pay the $20 a month for it, but I'll tell you what, the return on investment you get if you can use it in your business is enormous. So I want to make that clear.
Hold on one picture.
Yes. And I also want to clarify that I sit here at my big giant desktop all day, every day, where I believe, Mark, that most of our listeners would be using a phone, a mobile version of all of this. So I hope to not turn you off by showing you all this desktop stuff, because most of you probably are not sitting at a computer all day.
Well, there are folks but I mean, you got to remember the fun part at home. I mean, they do have their laptops or tablets, and it works just as well on those. And you were talking about images and creating these things, Barry. There's with a paid version, but there's also some free image generators that in the coming days and weeks we'll talk about those, and we'll give you I'll give you one right now. Adobe's, it's called Firefly. If you go firefly.adobe.com, it's a free image generator. You can't speak with it. You have to type in what you want, but you could say, sitting on the seashore by a serene sea on a sunny day with a purple elephant sitting next to me, and it will make that picture. So there are some free things out there that we'll talk about. And again, it's all going to be about immersing ourselves into this. It's not going to be a chore to learn this stuff. You're going to actually want to learn more and more as we go along. And there it is. Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to show people. That's firefly.adobe.com. I'm not going to sign in. I do have an account, but I don't want to take the time to sign in and stuff. Just wanted to show you. Very cool stuff. Because I will say, Mark, that I'm fairly disappointed with the premium ChatGPT's image generating. Even though I showed you all those, Dolly. Even though I showed you all those cool illustrations and stuff, but it can't create the same character twice. I've tried to do that. I've talked about it a couple of months ago. It'll create a different person. I tried to get it to, I wanted to create a specific brand for my electrical stuff I keep talking about. And I wanted this particular guy who's a trainer, but Dolly makes it different every time. And again, Dolly is the image generator part of ChatGPT. Sorry if that's confusing.
Yeah. We don't want to confuse anybody, but again, let's just start slow, pick a platform. I think ChatGPT is a great place to start. Or if you want to go to Claude, you can, Claude.ai. They have a free version as well. But again, remember, the free versions, you're training the model. So anything you give it, if you don't want it really out there, don't give it any, your personal information, anything like that. Stuff you wouldn't want on for the public to see. Don't
give it your name. Do not give it your address. No personal information. Correct.
Unless you have the paid version where you can turn off where the model learns off of your data. Don't do that. That's the trade-off with the free version.
I honestly still wouldn't trust it. Yeah, I still wouldn't trust it. They always say, "Oh, we're not taking your information." Then you read about the big story about the big break, the leak, or what have you. Mark, do you want to segue into morphing this into current events, or do you have more that you want to cover on this subject?
No, that's it. I don't want to. I fear almost. I hope I haven't given you too much, but have fun with it. And I can't wait to start this. I can't wait to share 1 to 2 minutes with everybody every week. And again, it will be actionable. It will be good stuff. It won't be techie. It won't be jargony. I'm not. This is as techie as we get. We're going to have fun with this, and we're gonna just create together.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to share that video with you that I was talking about, and I think it's important for us. And if you're just listening, that's fine. And this guy explains, it's a 1-minute video, how AI can mislead voters. I think that's really important right now, and I have more to talk about along those lines after.
Yep.
Can you hear it, Mark?
I can.
Okay, good.
What's going on are sometimes bad actors like political opponents and trolls and foreign adversaries are trying to stir things up by making it appear as though a candidate or a supporter did or said something that they didn't actually do. And it's very concerning because it can lead people to take actions that they normally wouldn't. I think what voters need to do is be aware that a lot of this content can be generated by AI and that they have to look for some of the clues of that. So things like Are the hands correct? Is there an additional finger? Are the
Mhm.
teeth correct? Are there blurry images around the subject of the photo? Things like that are giveaways because AI hasn't yet quite perfected those things. So always be on the lookout for that. And then generally, just be a little more skeptical of the things that you're seeing. If your emotions get raised, that's a second to step back and check your emotions and then really consider whether this is legitimate or not.
I think that is excellent advice that we all need to hear right now.
Well, I will
there's
say
been
this.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Barry. Go ahead.
I was
Finish.
just going to say there's been a lot of funny business going on with this election from the inception. I mean, all year we've seen it. So we could talk more about that. What were you going to say, Mark?
Well, I was going to say where he talked about looking at the images and really giving a close eye. He mentioned the hands and the fingers. I don't know how long
Huge.
that video ago was recorded, but it's pretty good now. They're pretty good with the hands and everything else. Not. Although it was something like that might have been very helpful 6 months ago. If you actually start creating images of people, you will see their hands look pretty good now. They've gotten past a lot of that, but some of the things, there is a new image generator out there that I won't even go into the name or anything. It doesn't matter, but it is as lifelike as a photograph, and it just was released by this company within the last couple of weeks, and I have used it, and it is to date the most. It's the most
Realistic.
image generator that I have played with, and I've been playing with this stuff for about 20 months now, since November of 2022. It is just it's crazy. So again, the good sound advice of checking your emotions, making sure check your facts, kind of a thing.
I like that.
There's always a second way you can check something that you hear, and being able to start correlating things. We're just going to have to start doing a little bit more work as responsible voters to be able to understand, what is fiction and what is fact.
Yeah, I want to stress that again. I thought one of the most important things that he said on there, notice, does it elicit an emotional response in you?
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, is that important. Because even I see all the time, if you go on Twitter or whatever, if you're on any kind of a comment section, YouTube, if you're getting led down a rabbit hole, following comments that are eliciting a emotional response in you, there's a damn good chance that it's a Russian plant. It's AI. And
it's a bot. Yep.
Yeah, it's a bot. There's a very good chance of that. There's more of that out there than there are true human beings trying to rattle your cage.
Yeah.
And so that is super important to realize. I hope that we have in 2024, I've been kind of hopeful about this year, about being the awakening from woke year, the end of DEI, the harmful aspects of it. And becoming just more aware of the manipulation because of the great divide that has been intentionally put out there by our own government and by our adversaries as well. And so I really hope that we can start to recognize that emotional response. If that is tugging at you, making you angry, take a breath and get away from it. I could scroll through Facebook and all of a sudden I feel negative energy start. Like, why am I on here? Get out of there. And Twitter will do it inside of 20 seconds, Yeah, I hope that we can become aware of that and make better choices as a result. Mark, I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are. I know that you like to, not go too heavy-handed into these subject matters, but about this crazy election that's been going on this year. First of all, we had to incorporate this in our conversation with AI and deep fakes. I know that our government likes to all of a sudden come up with new terminology to throw us. Remember cheap fakes? The 1 week of cheap fakes that they tried throwing at us, that Biden's really sharp as a tack, but those are cheap fakes that you're seeing out there. It's AI stuff. And then a week later, he does the debate. Okay, so the cat's out of the bag. He really has lost his marbles. So what happened to our cheap fakes? So you just acknowledge that we had the technology to put stuff out there that you cannot discern from reality. They told us that. And now they backpedal on it. But then
Yes.
push out the world's most unpopular candidate ever, and it's telling us that she's leading in the polls now. I don't believe anything I've seen this year. What do you think?
Well, I will just say that for somebody who never got a single vote, for not a primary vote, not anything, and being able to be put in the position she's in, she's very lucky.
Yeah.
And I also think that a lot, you and I, and I'm a lot of folks probably watching this, are immerse themselves into politics to some point. For me, I do it because it just being part of my life, my age, a lot of these things are starting to affect us as older adults.
Like the economy.
Want to be aware of these things. But for me, how people normally vote, to me, and you can go back over the last probably 30 or 40 years in the elections, the people that aren't as immersed in this as you and I are, or some of the listeners and viewers, what happened, because they have lives, they have families, those types of things. I mean, my son is a perfect example. He has 2 children, a very active lifestyle. He works. My daughter-in-law works. They just don't have time to immerse themselves in this. Sure. But when it comes time, let's say, and especially in a presidential election, mid-September, maybe early October, this is when they start brushing up and saying, okay, really, what are these candidates about? And this is how they vote with their wallets. Do I have a job? Are groceries too high? Can I put gas in my car? Can I take a vacation? Can I have a little bit of disposable income? Can I put my kids in a good school? Those types of things. Can I clothe my children? Everything is, they vote with their wallet. And if you look now at how things have been over the last 4 years, especially, I cannot believe the price of eggs. My God. And I eat a lot of, we're protein guys because we try to keep in shape and get our protein in. But just that, and just, what gas is, and how the energy just drives everything up, and how all of this is just increased 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-fold, depending upon the product or whatever it is, the service you're talking about. And when it comes to people, this is how they vote. And the old cliche is, are you better off now in your wallet and your lifestyle than you were 4 years ago? And I think for a lot of us, I know it's a no for me, just because,
to say the least,
everything from A to B, anything you have to supply, any food, anything like that, groceries, and I can go on and on as far as that kind of thing. I could say no. I am not better off. Gas is not $2 and something anymore like it used to be a mere 4 years ago. And people go, well, Mark, that was 4 years ago. Things always go up. Well, not as fast as these things went up. And I believe once energy independence went out the window, when we were energy independent 4 years ago, meaning we exported more than we imported, which is not the case now, prices were down. No matter what your political beliefs, that is a fact. And so, those are the things, I think, how people, for the most part, who aren't immersed in this, like you and I are, this is kind of how they vote. And I just don't know how the vice president can run on their record from the economic things that have happened over the last 4 years for most people. And so I'll stop there.
Well, I want to just say,
I'm just not better off now than I was 4 years ago.
Well, none of us are. And when I think about this, I always go to people under 40. They got their whole lives ahead of them. They got families. Really, most people cannot buy a house anymore right now. They can't buy a car anymore right now. You're going to get a hell of a lot less for your money right now. And these are like the important things in life. And a lot of interest. So it's very disconcerting. And I just hate our political structure now, where they have whittled everything down to 2 parties, and that's very intentional so that they can control it. I really wish that we had 2 more parties in there, so we had a real choice. It was true democracy. I don't see pushing out the world's most unpopular woman as presidential candidate and then saying that they're going to save democracy. I just don't see those two things driving whatsoever. So that kind of stuff.
Maybe both parties should just run better candidates.
you know, and that's why we need two more parties.
Where are the young ones in either side of the party?
Mm-hmm.
That's another concerning thing for me, and has been over the last few years.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something to say about, knowledge and age and that kind of thing, and life smarts, if you will. But I would like to see some young minds and some really newer ideas, especially from the younger folks, because I'm 67. If I have 20 more years left on this planet, I think that'll be a good life. But I care about my grandkids and everything else, and you want a better life for them, and you could just hope that from either side of the aisle, that we maybe get some better candidates in 4 years. Then maybe that will get people more involved in the process, kind of a thing, and maybe start opening some eyes. But everything is cyclical, and I think we're just in that part of the cycle to where things will start happening here probably the next 4 years or 5 years, and within the next 2 or 3, hopefully we see a lot of these younger folks starting to speak up and being active in their party, so we can, especially the younger folks, can be able to relate to them, and they can relate to them.
That's a very good point. I've talked about it several times on this podcast that I really loved Vivek Ramaswamy. I've listened to a lot of hours of him on podcast. He's brilliant. He's very clear thinking. I wanted him to be the presidential candidate because I wanted the younger generation to feel somebody that they could relate to, somebody that gave them a spark, put hope, gave them hope. And I think the younger generation probably feels you can't fight City Hall kind of thing. Like this whole machine is beyond my reach. And with these old candidates that are pushed out there, Kamala Harris isn't that old, but she's certainly a puppet, just like the last puppet that we had. And then with Trump, Trump is just such a lightning rod, and there's some good things I think he can do, but I don't think he's the brightest candidate that we could put out there. It's just my opinion. So with you, I would hope that we get more of a youth movement behind this. I always say the people that got us into this mess aren't going to get us out of it. So we need the younger people to get on board. This reminds me of a subject matter that I was exploring about a week ago using chat. And it comes right back full circle with our conversation is, are we going to be able to employ everyone in just a couple of years? And then how about 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And it's a very valid conversation. And with my friends that are on the farther right, they can't have this conversation because it leads straight into socialism right away. They literally can't have it. Nope, that'll never happen. There's always going to be jobs. I mean, they got to shut that down right away. And I don't know what to make of it, Mark, to be honest with you. I'll try to go over it very quickly and see what your thoughts are. So I said to Chad, I'm wondering if, based on your knowledge of how civilization has evolved over the last 500 years, and it starts getting way ahead of itself, because I just go ... because I got a whole heavy conversation I want to have with it. It's like, oh, I'd love to explore that, blah, blah, blah. And then I say, seeing the evolution of technology and how our careers and jobs have changed, ... Well, it goes into the whole explanation of how we've evolved. Civilization has evolved since the 1500s. 1500s to 1700s, we were in the age of exploration and early industrialization. And it explains that in more detail. In the 1700s and 1800s, we were in the Industrial Revolution. I mean, we know this, and it's really important to understand. And in the 1800s and 1900s, we're in the Second Industrial Revolution and the early 20th century, but with mass production, electricity and telecommunications come into play. And then scientific achievements, tons and tons of breakthroughs. So then it brings us to the mid 1900s to late 1900s. That was our early adulthood. IT comes about, automation comes about, globalization starts happening, which is pretty damn new. All right, globalization. So the 2000s to present is the information age. The internet and mobile technology come about. Gig economy and remote work were not possible before this. Sustainability and green jobs. So future trends, AI and machine learning, it talks about biotechnology, space exploration, virtual and augmented reality, which I thought would be a bigger deal by now. I predicted that. And then in the late 90s, mid 90s, I was reading so much about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the impact of automation and AI on employment today, job displacement, job transformation, new job creation. It goes on to, talk about, if you were to read through this, I don't want to bore you with it, but it goes on to talk about the theory of, how when the calculators came out, we thought everybody was going to be displaced. But things just changed. The printers in my field, printers, most of them went out of business. They had to consolidate. I haven't used a printer in a couple years myself. I used to create print marketing materials, and now everything I do is digital. I think video like crazy. So my job has changed 100%. And I'm glad, because I love the way where it went, more so than I did before. So it does talk about, Chat went on to talk about, well, there is a theory that jobs will just change and evolve, as I just described with mine. But then there's the other one. Well, the potential responses and solutions is universal basic income. Maybe that's where we go. This is where everybody gets triggered about socialism. Well, if everybody has a bare subsistence provided to them, well, then what happens? And it gets very philosophical from here, because a lot of people will fall into depression and feelings of not having any role, any purpose in this world. That's for sure. I think no matter what happens with our society, we have got to start having the conversation about, think like Star Trek when we were kids, that future civilization where nobody needed to work, but they worked out of purpose, for purpose. We need to find, and it's applicable to today's society too. A lot of people are just, they can get on social programs and they don't have purpose anymore. And people need to feel like they have an impact on the society and feel purpose. Do you have an opinion on how this is going to shake out as we get more automated?
Well, I do, and everything changes so fast, and I will give you a really good example. So we talked about this last night, and we won't get techie or jargony with folks when I say this, but these models are getting smarter day by day, and supposedly the next version of ChatGPT, which the rumors are it's going to be called Strawberry, is going to be coming out very soon. And the capabilities of that model, you think, so the intelligence, the AI we're working with now is the dumbest, if you will, the least capable you will ever know, because they're getting better so fast, so quick. So I listened to a very, very good podcast called the AI Podcast by and I can call both people my friends, a guy named Paul Raitzer and Mike Kaput here in Cleveland. And they actually were talking about this yesterday, because things happening so fast. Rather than talk about suffice to say, this model is going to be a lot better than what you know now, if that's possible. And it is. And everything's moving towards what's called artificial general intelligence, which means when AI can do everything a human can without human intervention. And right now it can't do everything. So I'll give you a really good example. Let's say you want to go to the Rocky Mountains and take a trip to the Rocky Mountains, and maybe fly to Denver and get a cabin and go up in the mountains and be able to hike and those kinds of things. Well, you have to plan that kind of thing, but AI can plan something like for you. Say, hey, this is what I want to do. It will give you ideas. Say, I don't want to do this. I do want to do these things. It will make a really nice itinerary for you. Mm-hmm. But what it can't do, it can't go out and book that airline flight for you. It can't go out and book that Airbnb. But you've got to think those types of things are coming. And then, so what does that take jobs? Okay, does that mean every job is going to be eliminated? Well, as we see them, no, but of course you could, jobs are going to be affected for sure. Every job affected, most probably will in some way. But what I say to you is, the more you know and the more you can apply it to your job, the better off you'll be in the near term. And the reality with a lot of these companies, most people, because I talk about it all the time, I talk with businesses all the time, they don't even have anything rolled out. Maybe their staffs are playing with it a tiny bit, but there are no plans. Businesses just aren't ready for this. And you,
Agreed.
as an individual, a worker, have to be ready for this. And Paul created a website, and we can put this in the show notes, and he actually has a chat that anybody can access, and you could actually paste in your job description and from what it is you actually do, and it will tell you on levels of basically what your job does, what your responsibilities are. Ask it about subtasks, and it will tell you how AI can help you with your job now. And then also, because of where we're going and because things are happening so fast, and it uses this large language model, essentially a ChatGPT, to be able to better prepare you right now to say, okay, I can get whatever this task is, I can have AI help me do it. Number one, you'll be more productive. Number two, it'll save time. And then you'll be able to maybe do more things than you want to do. Maybe get to that project that you never had a chance to, or something else that maybe just took so long to do and so many hours of work. Maybe the AI can help you now. And I'll get this over to you for the show notes so people can go and you can play around with this thing. Again, you could just talk to it and it'll ask you questions. So essentially, really, all you're doing is say, what do you do for a living? And you can paste in your job description and it will tell you, break out in tables, how your job can be affected by AI now and in the future. And that's, of course, a prediction, but it's able to do a little bit of that for you. But it actually, the best part is it tells you how it can help you now get better at your job. And I think we all need a tool like that, and I'll provide that as well. And just yesterday, I learned more about this, and and I played with it. It's a very cool tool, and we'll share that URL with folks.
Nice. Okay, good. And by the way, you can go to over50startingover.com, and our latest video will always be on the homepage. If you click on it and go to the actual blog page, because it's just the feed. If I feed it into the homepage, but if you go to the blog page, you'll get all of our notes. If you go to the YouTube video, all of our notes will be in there as well. Even on a podcast channel, all of these notes will be in there, and I appreciate you putting that in there, Mark. I have just a few current events that are all related, and I forgot to go over them. I'll just throw them out and you comment as you want. One, and this is, I think they're all close to a week old, 5 days old. Elon Musk sues OpenAI. Renewing claims ChatGPT-maker puts profits before, in quotes, the benefit of humanity. I read that a while ago, about 5 days ago, and it was he invested in OpenAI because they said that they agreed to put the good of humanity first, and Elon is claiming that they are going after profits first. And just to remind people, earlier this year, I think it was earlier this year, Elon was calling for a 6-month moratorium on AI, saying that we need to get a hold on top of the morality, the legalities of it before we pursue anything more. I thought that was crazy at the time. And I still think it's crazy because China would be like, yeah, you guys stop because we are going full steam forward and we'll steamroll you guys with our AI and take control of you. So I just, hey, that the genie's out of the bottle. You're not going to put it back in.
No, you can't. No, you can't. Fortunately, the tech companies that are the large tech companies here in the United States, that they want to keep this here. They do not want this to go into other people's hands. That's why they, with the growing a little bit of regulation and the direction from these tech companies not being able to make our enemies to get a hold of these kinds of things, because they are not where we're at. And that's why you can't have ChatGPT in China right now, or any of the other places around the world that just aren't favorable to us. So there is, there is an awareness among the tech giants that, yes, they don't want this technology to reach outside of the United States because of the possibilities with it. Now, you're going to have your bad players everywhere, but if we can just mitigate that and keep it as close to the vest as we can, I think the better off we'll be. But even if you stopped it today, even if you just, like they said right now, okay, we're not developing anything anymore, it would still take a lot of places, a lot of different around the world and countries it'd take a while to catch up to where we are, just because of the chips that are manufactured that run these computers, these models that are able to, even if in theory if you don't have the equipment and the compute power to run these things, you can't run them. It's amazing how these things run. So I like to keep hope with that. But even if we were to stop today, you could still use it to improve your life, change your life, make your life easier, and those types of things. But just know, as they say, this is the least capable now AI will ever be. It'll be the dumbest it will ever be, essentially.
That's some comment right there. All right, I got 3 more articles. I'm just going to read all 3 of their headlines because they all are related. And here they are. Google has an illegal monopoly on search. U.S. judge finds. Then the next one, OpenAI announces SearchGPT, its AI-powered search engine. I'm going to say that again. OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, are announcing SearchGPT. And remember, Google just got slapped with the illegal monopoly on search. And finally, Elon Musk announces new search engine, in quotes, TruthGPT, to challenge Google and Bing. And I like all of these a lot. I said they're all interrelated because I can't stand Google. I really can't. I think they're the evil empire. Their slogan up until 5 years ago used to be "Do no evil." Well, I'm sure glad they took that off of their slogan, because the amount of censorship and misinformation that the world's largest search engine puts out there is infuriating. And I think it gets worse by the day, in my opinion. And it's my last resort. I use DuckDuckGo and the Brave search engine. And somehow or another, you probably know the answer to this, but somehow or another, they seem to rely on Google because even their search results get affected. I can see a skew.
Well,
but Google,
probably.
Geez.
I can give you an alternative, and it's an AI alternative. To me, I go to it. I use it every day. You will too when you start. I don't even go to Google anymore. I only go to Google now as I'm going to Lowe's or Home Depot to look for something, and I'll search for it, and it'll give me the link to on the Home Depot site or wherever it is. It's always shopping products. It's perplexity.ai.
Oh, we've talked about
AI. That will be your new Google, and it's real time. It cites its sources, so when it tells you something, it gives you the clickable of where you can go to where it got the information from, and it does a very nice job. And the free version is wonderful, and I use it every single day in my work and in my personal life. So perplexity.ai. Thank me later.
Yes, and I'm going to put that in our show notes again. We've talked about it before, and I like that. In all of these regards, so whether it's Elon announcing SearchGPT or OpenAI announcing, Elon announces TruthGPT. OpenAI announces SearchGPT. I'm just saying we really, really need a free speech platform, search platform, very badly. And sooner rather than later. So this is all just music to my ears. And the sooner that they slap Google with whatever they're going to do. I know Google's appealing it right now, and they have the world's best lawyers, so God only knows where that happens. But what will happen is this, the pressure of competition will finally make them crumble. I think that their arrogance is their own undoing, in my opinion.
Well, we'll see.
Thank God for Elon Musk taking over Twitter. It was that cracked open the door to real free speech instead of all the censorship that we've been enduring. All right. With that, buddy, any final comments? We're going to get going here.
Well, again, every week, if you have any ideas or anything you want us to cover, just drop us a note, write to Barry, and we'll work on that, and we'll answer as many, or if not all, of any requests. Any questions you have, we'll try to answer them for you. But we'll see you next week with our first couple of tips, our first 2 minutes, and I'm looking so forward to working with you and immersing and getting you into this so you can be part of this, and it can be part of your world. And for the next 15 or 20 years, if you still have to work, we got you. We got you.
I love that. And I learn a lot from you every time you come on. I really appreciate that. Oh, just a quick question. Do you have any opinion on the Browns this season? I've been losing interest in them the last couple of years.
Lot of injuries already here in training camp. Some questions around the offensive line. I think we've got about 3 weeks to go before the season starts. I don't know.
Do you have a record prediction?
Oh gosh, no. I mean, the teams that were good last year doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be good this year. Teams that were bad last year, same thing. Okay. How about this? You can't even say 8-8 anymore because they play 17 games.
Right. So you got to pick a winning season or a losing.
9-7. 9-7. I don't know.
Okay. What do you think of the backup quarterback situation this year?
Oh,
Which
nice.
is very
9-7. It has to be 9-8. I guess, right?
Yes, I think. Yes.
Good. I think they're a lot better at the backup quarterbacks. Snoop, who's the third quarterback, used to be the Baltimore Ravens backup to Lamar Jackson. He's good, and of course, he knows the Baltimore offense really good. We play them twice a year, and then of course, Jameis Winston is our backup. Boy, he is a very flamboyant fella. They mic'd him up for the exhibition game last week, and it was very fun to listen to that.
Yeah. What was it like? I mean, you say he's flamboyant. Like, what kind of stuff was he saying?
Oh, just live for the day, guys. This is your day. This is it.
Okay.
This is the moment. This is the moment. Welcome to the NFL. I mean, he walked up to the referees and was hugging them because he knows him. He's been in the league a while, kind of a thing. If you look, Jameis Winston mic'd up last week. It's about a 10-minute segment NFL Films put on. It's great, and he's like I say, he's an up tempo personality. Okay,
I'll tell you what. When what's his name, Watson goes down, I'll be watching those games. I'll look forward to those. Yeah, it's a matter of a game or two before that happens. Yeah. All right, with that, everybody, really appreciate you guys listening. I hope you got a lot out of it. Look forward to Mark's segments and upcoming episodes. Mark, have a great weekend. Thank you so much once again.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.